at 7 o'clock. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us for the regular meeting of the Lafayette Township Board of Trustees and Fire District. Today is Tuesday, July 21st, 2026. Roll call. Here.
Malahed,
Paroli here. If I could have everybody join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first item on the agenda tonight is the consent agenda with 3 sets of meeting minutes. The regular meeting of July 7th, the special meeting of July 14th, and the emergency meeting of July 17th. Did everybody get a chance to review those?
I'll make a motion,
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Next up, we have fiscal. On the township side, we've got payroll for the pay period of July 5th through July 18th, totaling $10,046.38. I would make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then for the fire district, same period, total payroll of $29,111.83. I make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. For the warrants, on the township, we have electronic payments 279/2026 through 293/2026, and check numbers 37869 through 37887, totaling $134,921.84. Obviously, the big chunk of that being the Melway paving project. Second payment for $118,000. I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And for the fire district, we have electronic warrants 476/2026 through 481/2026, and checks 2240 through 2253, totaling $18,872.15. I would move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
With that, under fiscal, the other item that I have, we've discussed previously, but it would be resolution 2026-45, a resolution reallocating inside millage. We currently direct inside millage 1.00 mils to the general fund, 2.00 mils to road and bridge. This would simply direct the county to reallocate all of our inside millage to the general fund, just maximizing the flexibility that we have. Currently, any inside millage that comes to the township, that gets directed to road and bridge, can only be spent in road and bridge. This gives us the flexibility to be able to, manage the budget maybe more internally versus kind of be dictated where it goes.
Right. I understand the approach there, and you can use those funds outside of road and bridge as needed. I like the process. So how would you propose? I like the process of having road and bridge separate, the service department separate, so that
Yes.
we have a separate budget. We pay their salaries, all their expenses, the
Correct.
maintenance on the machinery and the trucks and everything out of that road and bridge cost center. If we bring it all into the general fund, then we have to do a transfer and move it back in there to pay those.
Potentially. So what happens is we currently have money that can be allocated for those other sources. But yes, we would ultimately, when money comes from the county, goes into road and bridge, it's stuck there.
Right.
Nothing can ever be done with it, other than road and
Used
bridge
for road and
purposes.
bridge, right.
So, yes, to your point, we wouldn't be paying road and bridge salaries or expenses out of the general fund. What we would ultimately be doing is, the money would come into the general fund when we budget each year, and we know we need X number of dollars in road and bridge, we can transfer money from general fund to road and bridge.
Okay,
We can do that.
okay.
We can't transfer money from road and bridge to the
back
general.
fund, I understand.
So it's not
So we,
commingling things, it's just giving us more flexibility. In the past, because we do get, gasoline tax, permissive motor vehicle, those other intergovernmental revenues can be used for road and bridge, they can't be used
They
for
have
some
to
of the,
be
right,
road and
exactly,
bridge.
exactly. So this just, again, maximizes our flexibility, but yes, to your point,
Okay.
the way I see it is, when we do our budgeting at the beginning of the year, we may decide like, hey, we're getting X number of dollars for the year. When we get the money and it hits general fund, we'll put X number of dollars into road and bridge,
okay,
but it gives us the ability to control that versus it being mandated at the county level.
yeah, I understand now. So we still use road and bridge
Yes.
accounts and cost centers and structure. We would just have to do a budget transfer at the beginning of the year to move funds in there to basically fund it, so.
When the money comes in, but
Yes,
yes.
yes.
Sherry, is that,
Yeah,
All
all it takes is a, transfer from fund to fund. Just that's, all you have to do really is by motion, you have to do it by legislation.
Okay.
So, what have we got then coming up that we can't pay for out of the general fund so far?
there's nothing necessarily that we can't pay for out of the general fund. It's that in the past when, depending on whether if we have, any number of things, anything that isn't a road project essentially. And I don't foresee it being something where, we can't necessarily, but, zoning salaries can't come out of road and bridge, they come out of the general fund. Whether we do, any of the additional events or programs that we do, I mean, is it necessarily, catastrophic if we don't make the change? I don't believe so. I just don't know why we wouldn't make the allocation
I have
change.
concerns though that if we had it previously where money was allocated to buy an ambulance and then as the board changed, the money got spent and then the taxpayer, we had to go back, not our board obviously, but then the prior board went back to the taxpayer for a levy. Are we risking
There,
monies for projects that we, down the road that could be potentially used for something?
no, this doesn't, how do I say this? What you're more describing is like, can we put restrictions in place to like handcuff a future board on certain things? No, there really isn't any way to do that. Well, I guess there are maybe some ways if you actually encumber the funds and make a purchase, like the ambulance that has been purchased in order, those are tied up. But as far as like, reallocation, no, a future board could undo any of this.
Yeah, and I'm not talking
anyway.
about the future right now. If we've got monies, we know that eventually we're gonna have to order another truck. We've got to sell this one truck we've got. Are we putting ourselves in a position where the monies might be used for something else in the long run by accident because we're not putting it aside for anything
Well,
specific?
We're not putting it aside for anything right now either. We should be putting it in a capital improvement. fund
Right, I
if that's
mean,
the case.
I guess to your point, I mean, yes, it forces us to not be able to have the flexibility but, I mean, flip side of that is, I mean, that's saying we don't wanna make this change because we don't trust ourselves to pay attention to where we're spending the money and not spend it without knowing what we're spending it on. I mean, that's ultimately what that boils down to.
Not really, well, no, I wasn't interpreting it as that, I'm just saying, we have to be very mindful then of any changes that we make, is that we are not taking money away from future road projects that we've got.
Right, we're not, we're just giving ourselves the flexibility to do not have all of it put into, you know, the road and bridge. I mean, when we originally, I wanna say, it was 2 years ago, I believe we went from, cause originally it was 2.6 or 2.7 that was going to road and bridge, and only 0.3 was going into the general fund, and that was creating situations where there wasn't enough money in the general fund sometimes to be able to, you know, to cover things that need to be covered. And then when we looked at making the change, you know, the thought process was, you know, originally, you know, I was of the position that we just make a full switch to everything general. The board at the time settled on doing like a partial split to see how it went.
Sure.
It hasn't really changed any of the way that we've done stuff, but it just gives flexibility to what we're doing.
Yeah, I understand the flexibility. What's the equivalent of 1 mil? Is it like 600,000 or 800,000? In tax revenue typically?
It really depends, because this isn't a mill the way,
Oh, it's different.
well, it's the same, but it's different in that the levies, the way we generally think about millage with the levies is that that'll fluctuate based on the, because the levies collect a set dollar amount regardless of what the valuations are. Inside millage increases, you know, with
Property appraisal.
with property appraisals, right, so that amount, you know, if you look back at our inside millage collection, you know, it's roughly doubled since 5 or 6 years ago, which a levy can't do.
So roughly speaking, it's between 400 and 430,000 then, moving.
No, our inside millage is almost $1 million.
But
So-
we want to put the entire amount then into general.
Right, because then we have full control over what we spend it over versus the way that it's set up right now where almost 700,000 of it goes to road and bridge, 300,000 goes to the general fund, and that 700,000 is locked in road and bridge and can't be used for anything else. Not to mention the fact that the rest of our restricted revenues go into road and bridge as well. So typically, road and bridge is overfunded,
Sure.
you know, and then, yes, I mean, on the standpoint of if the board doesn't pay attention to budgeting, it could be an issue, but I don't wanna speak for the rest of you. I feel comfortable with the approach that we take to budgeting,
Yeah.
that this just makes
So
everybody's life easier for,
I'm okay
managing
making a
it.
change. I just don't know if moving it all to the general fund is appropriate. If we should do 2 to general fund and 1 to road and bridge, or if we should do, like you proposed, the whole 3 mills to the general fund. I don't know.
Is there any deficit in for 27? I can't remember now off the top of my head. Are we going in as a deficit for 27 for the budget in general fund? No, we're not, are we? No. So I like the idea of splitting it like Nick says. If we're going to do it, is to hold on to a certain amount, but
okay, well, I mean, if there's an alternative proposal, we can do that. If you guys wanna wait and look at it between, the reason bringing it up now, we just did the tax budget, and the last time we tried to make this change, it was late in the year, we didn't get it to the auditor's
Right.
office in time, but we have plenty of time on this if you guys want to maybe look at it a little bit more. I know I sent it out, I think on Friday or Saturday for you, so.
when does it have to be by the auditor's office? September, October?
Oh, this wouldn't even have to be the auditor's office,
Yeah,
probably like
we've got-
November or
yeah,
December, so we've got time,
Yeah,
you know, so if you wanna wait until the August meeting, we can revisit it then, and,
I understand that if it's in general fund, we can move it to wherever we want, and I don't have a problem with that. I just, if we're we're gonna move, if we're gonna collect it all in the general fund and then move part of it back to road and bridge, why don't we just keep a little bit in road and bridge from the start? I don't know, maybe it's easier or cleaner for budgeting if we do move it all to the general fund, because then you know, this is the bucket, road and bridge is starting with 0, but it needs whatever, 400,000 or 600,000 or whatever. So then we just make instead of having to say, oh, well, it's got 325,000. So maybe it's easier and cleaner that way. Do you have any preference?
No, you can move the money anytime, it doesn't have to be just one
Yeah.
time a year. I mean, that's open all year round, so I mean, there's that too, so.
But to your point, I think that's exactly what the thought process was, right? Like this last year especially, and we've been moving more towards, you know, a zero, you know, zero balance budgeting. You know, start at the beginning of the year,
Right.
nothing's expended. We sit down and we forecast what we're gonna spend. So to your point, right, we figure out like road and bridge is gonna cost us this.
Right.
And then we can look at our certificate of resources and say, okay, well, we've got these coming in from permissive and from the gas tax and these other sources. So what's the shortfall we need to make up? And then, yes, the idea would be to do one transfer. Can you do it with a different allocation? Absolutely. We could continue to do it without
Yeah.
changing it, you know? You know, I do think this is, the 1-2 is probably a closer split to where, long-term it probably needs to be. But at the same time, like I said, I was more just looking at it from a flexibility standpoint,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
I'm good with
Let's
irrigation.
table it
Table till.
for the next one.
Okay, alright, that's fine. So next up on the agenda, I just, the 24-25 Township and Fire District audits. I know this will be the first time that you guys have kind of gone through one of those processes. I did speak with Lindsay Young, at the, State Auditor's Regional Office. They've been processing some of their old ones, and just so everybody's aware, this time around, the state will be doing our audit as opposed to one of the independent accounting firms. So they expect that that'll start towards the end of August. They'll reach out to Sherry to set up a time, and then they do like an intake interview with the entire board, just to go over the process. And it is one of the few open meeting exceptions. So we are able to meet with the auditor to discuss just the audit process and how that's gonna go. So just kind of keep that on the radar for the next month or so.
We don't have a date yet, though.
No, they're not 100% sure when they're gonna be able to start that, but in talking with Lindsay, I had reached out because there were a couple of questions that we had that were carried over from last year that we were waiting for the audit to run its course so that we could figure out what action to take from the board. Oprah's issue from last
Yeah.
year. So I just wanted to find out from her where that process stood, and with her calendar and the other entities that they still have to get through the audit process with, she's expecting it to be sometime in late August.
Okay.
So, just something to keep an eye out for, but that way, I know I'd asked Sherry a couple of times, and I felt bad bugging her about, like, if she had heard where those stand, so I just want everybody to know where that is.
Thank you.
Absolutely, and then for the fire district, did you wanna,
Yeah, should we discuss, should we go to?
you wanna do that first? Okay,
And then,
we can do that, absolutely. So then, we'll skip over the fire district and back to it, but, I would make a motion to enter executive session under Ohio Revised Code 121.22 G1, to consider the compensation of a public employee and also to consider the appointment of a public employee.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Bilal, yes?
Kittle, yes.
Parole, yes. Joining us in executive session will be Fiscal Officer Sherry Ward. All right, 7:31, we are out of executive session. No decisions were made. Let's go back to the fire chief.
So, fire chief job posting, I sent you guys, the proposed job posting. Did you get a chance to review it?
I did.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments or changes?
Nope.
All right, the selection committee reviewed it, they, they were good with what was in there, and, so at this point, I think we're ready to post the position.
Okay.
And, I'll get with Kristen to post it on the website, and then, where else do you wanna post that? We will post it on Facebook. Are we able to post that on the Lafayette Township
Yeah.
Fire?
Sure.
And on
Post it
Indeed,
there? Was
do
that,
it Indeed.
I don't know
What
if
did
Indeed's,
the committee say about that? Did they-
I didn't ask him about that. I can ask him for other places to post it.
Yeah,
But the main thing is to post it on our website, maybe, the fire district, Facebook page, and then any other, Facebook page or anything that we could share it on, just to get,
I'm perfectly fine with that, and if you identify other, I have no issues
just let Nick, yeah.
letting Nick, take lead on that. If there's somewhere else that you identify that's, that it makes sense to advertise and get the
Right.
position posted, let's do that. How long do we wanna advertise the position for? Like, do we wanna set a date for closing
yeah,
off?
we probably should. Let's, we talked previously about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or 30 days. I'm okay with 3 weeks and see where we end up. If we need to extend it, we can always extend it, but if we get a good amount of candidates in 3 weeks, I don't know that we need to keep it posted, just to keep it open.
So, let's see here. So if we went, 3 weeks from today on the button would be the 11th. But that's a Tuesday.
Yeah, we want
Do you want to push it out till either like that Friday or the following Monday?
Let's do the following Monday.
Well,
So
how
the-
soon? Give them an extra couple of days yet to get it posted at least.
So take applications through 8/17.
8/17, yeah.
Okay.
Or should we say 8/16?
I'd take them through the end of the day on Monday.
Okay.
Cause we'll meet on the 4th and the 18th.
Okay.
I guess the other thing that we should probably discuss, and I forward you guys some information, cause we might wanna put it into the final, like, I know we've got the job description and the posting, but like, the hiring process. We're obviously gonna get a number of applicants. You've put together a committee to help kind of with the selection, but at the end of the day, it's obviously, it's the three of
It's
us
our
that,
decision, yeah.
that make the decision. So how do you propose we go about, like,
Yeah.
the interview selection?
Yeah, so we kind of talked about that at the last meeting. I think we get the applicants, make sure that they're qualified. Whoever's qualified, then so I just reviewed those assessment center emails that you sent over.
Yeah, unfortunately, we just got the last of them in today, so.
Yeah, so it sounds like most of them, depends on what your guys' tolerance is to pay for testing. Because it's gonna be several $1,000s to do that, which
Yes.
I've always from the beginning said we wanna make sure that this is we get the hire right. So I think we get the job posted, we still have 2 to 3 weeks, or maybe a month to determine the process of, like finalize the process. We talked about doing an assessment, so we go through the resumes, see who's qualified. From there, we determine who we want to send to an assessment.
Mhm.
We get the assessment scores, and then the selection committee would interview the top 3, 4, 5, or 6, like probably not more than 4 or 5. And then make a recommendation to the board, and then the board can interview or make a hire at that point.
So you're kind of talking screening applicants.
Yep.
Select a set number for an interview, or are you saying potentially use
But the part that I'm not sure about is, do we interview before we assess, or do we assess before we interview?
Yeah, and I go back and forth on it, right? I guess I see both sides of it. To me, I kind of equate this though to, large corporations use search teams and testing and evaluation and kind of outsource or
Yeah.
consult that piece of it for a reason. It's not because they just like spending money, it's because it kind of creates that sense of independence and, kind of credibility to the process, which is part of the reason why I think it's important that we kind of decide what that is, so that we can include that with the posting, right? So that when an applicant looks at the job description, right, they're gonna read the job description, they're gonna read the pay and the benefits, and they're gonna look at those things, but then they're also gonna ask, well, what's this process gonna look like? You know, is it, you know, how's it gonna work? And I think that it would benefit us to have that kind of, at least, maybe not necessarily even like who's gonna do it, right? Cause there's a number of ways we can do it, but as I've talked to a number of different people, both the companies that can help us with this process and also some retired chiefs and people that are around the area that have, you know, more experience with this obviously than any of the three of us. One of the things that's kind of been a general theme is to have some sort of, you know, independent assessment criteria in the process that gets you maybe to three, like the top three, right? You test 5, 6, 7 people, whatever it winds up being, right? So the committee picks those, maybe screens down to that. We test, through one of the different services.
Right.
Which, to your point, probably will run between 5 and 10 grand, depending on who you select and how many candidates we have
Right.
test. But then they come back and say, here's your top 3.
Right.
And then we interview from there. And, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean you hire the one that tested the best, but, you know, that gets you to the point where, you know, there's actually some quantifiable reason for how we got to our finalists.
Sure.
That's kind of the way I see it.
Yeah, and
You
I
know-
think that's exactly what I said, but,
Okay,
you might have described it a little bit.
gotcha. Well, that's what, it's better to
Yeah.
talk through these,
Yeah.
so you're on board with that piece of it
Yeah, I just,
potentially.
the variable is, I don't know how many people are gonna apply, and how do we get down to the top 6 or 7, or 5, 6, 7 that we send to test?
Yeah.
But
So-
then that's what the committee's for though, isn't it? That committee is
Well-
the buffer that we've got, that we go to for the expertise on this.
The committee, I was looking more towards, doing more, like, interviews, like a committee interview
Mhm.
for the finalists. Like whoever gets to, like Justin
Right.
said, the top 3 that testing, I thought that the selection committee would interview those top 3 and rank them, and then make a recommendation to the board.
Okay.
And then I'll be in those interviews, but you guys obviously wouldn't, so if you guys wanted to meet with the applicants one-on-one, or that would be up to you guys. I mean, you guys be open to that.
Thoughts?
I have a lot of concern with spending so much. It's the only thing. I think that's a lot of money to be spending, so if we could nail down, that's why I like the idea of the committee. If they're only doing, say, 3 testing on, the costs aren't so high, are they? So when you sent the information, I can't remember the numbers now, I was just looking at it a second ago.
Well, most of them were kind of set up such that, you know, you would test somewhere between 4 and 7 in a single day period, and the cost is gonna be relatively the same depending on how many.
Oh, so it wasn't per person?
Well, it is to a degree, right? They're not gonna let you test just one person.
A lot of them were
You know,
minimum than 3.
Well, they're testing
Right.
one person, doesn't really, it's not very
Right,
effective.
well,
is it?
but that's my point, so it's
Yeah.
not a pure per person type cost. You know, I just look at, you know, where we are and where we're trying to go. You know, Nick's put together a good
Yeah.
committee with the right stakeholders, but at the same time, I mean, you know, the representatives from the village, I think it's great to have them involved, but they don't necessarily have any more or less experience than any of us
Right,
up here
right.
with that. So the you have what, one chief, one fire chief, one police, Mr. Kenny, Kitty,
Two
Chief Kenny,
fire
two
chiefs.
fire chiefs. So I mean, So it's good, but at the same time, I mean, there's still, I mean, it's still a general interview versus, you know, a more quantifiable assessment at the end of the day,
Right.
where you can say, we brought in, you know, we brought in 7 people, we tested them, there's a quantifiable score, we took the top 3, we interviewed those, we hired from that. That's a defensible process versus, you know,
Yeah.
we had a panel interview and we picked the person we liked.
So
And-
I'm completely okay with that process. I think that's the process I had in mind.
Mhm.
We just need to
Decide
decide
which
which
one and-
assessment center we want to
Correct.
use. And
But
and
I
how
think,
many people we want to send. But I don't know that we'll know how
We
many
might-
people we want to send
Until
until
the,
the applicants.
the resumes come in, yeah.
agreed, I think where maybe the decision point is that, you know, I think whoever we test, whatever the screening process to the test is, we're gonna test a number of applicants that's determined by how many we get, right? Like, if we get 4 applicants, we probably test all 4.
Mhm.
You know, if we get 50, we're obviously not testing
50, right?
50 applicants, so we'll screen to
Yeah.
that. But then once we go through the assessment piece of it, I think we bring the top 3 for interviews and go from there.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep.
Yeah,
Does that sound right?
yeah.
And I think we can figure out exactly what that cost piece is. I don't think any of them presented in a way that would cost more than 10 grand. And I think it'll probably be closer to that 5 number if we're just using the assessment piece.
Right.
And while it's not an insignificant amount of money, I think it's a modest investment to help increase the chance of, you know, making sure we get the right person in the building for the township and for the fire district.
Okay.
So that's everything under there. Did anybody have anything under correspondence?
No. Do you, Nick?
Oh. I don't know if this would fall under there, but there's that cemetery grant. Ben said-
I've been working on it, yeah.
Okay, well, the deadline's the end of the month,
Yeah.
July 31st, okay.
There are some things we're not eligible for, I'm just checking to make sure that
Okay.
we're
Yeah,
eligible for it before I go any further, because there's a few things that we were kind of going back and forward on and.
Okay,
and-
yeah, Ben said that you forwarded it to him, but he
Yeah.
also said, yeah, probably be something good to look
No,
into.
yeah, we've had a
And,
conversation
we
on
don't
it.
have time to look into it, we gotta apply or move.
Yeah, no, we've been working.
Okay, thank you.
Alright. So I don't know that we have anything on the top 3 that have kind of been lingering for a while, some other stuff we've been working on. Any update on, I know at the special meeting for the road berm stuff, did you get a chance to look any more into
I have the addresses.
for Lance?
And that, yeah, area on Lance. I'll send it to you guys in an email,
Okay.
but, I wanted to do that before now, but I.
Yeah, that's
Get
fine.
the email sent. Yeah, it's for, and it really doesn't have to be 4, it could just be 3. Like the one upstream from 6115,
Okay.
Mr. Hildebrand's property. Yeah, we don't technically have to do anything to that one. And not that we have to do anything to any of them, but.
Right. But we were, just to recap, we were talking about potentially looking at a setting back all of those ditches so that,
Those culverts are very close to the edge of the road, probably within 18 inches or so, 2 feet max, and they should be back a lot more than where they're at. Yeah, so my suggestion is to do it right, fix it right, which would require pulling out those culverts, setting them back to an appropriate depth, move the ditch back away from the road. So I remember Mr. Hildebrand came to one of the meetings, and he said that the reason he filled his ditch is because a lady went off the road to board a deer, and she rolled her van over or something. The berm, the side of the road is so narrow that if you just barely go off the side of the road, you're gonna end up in the ditch. And
gotcha. So we can move those back
we
and
can move that
potentially
back. You had a little bit more
shoulder.
to correct, you know, if you go off the edge, to correct, so I think it's a safety concern for one thing.
Mhm.
Okay. And we do have some more flexibility with what we can address if we do it as part of a road project, potentially with that too, to assist correcting, you know, the improper depth for the drive pipes and.
Yeah, I had a the county got in touch with me, with Mr. Hillman, and what they have spoken to me about is they did mess up, they acknowledged it, that by closing down his and not inspecting it, it closed it down on like an approval basis. So the county acknowledged that they were at fault for that. They are willing to, if we as a township pull the pipe out, dig and put it back, but if at any point that gets damaged, they will pay for any of the piping for his property that needs to be done. Because they acknowledged that they were at fault for that, for that side of it. The only thing that the county has said is obviously we cannot use his old permit, because that expired, so the resident will have to get a new permit they're called. So I don't know how you guys feel about the county assisting us with this to resolve the matter.
One, I think that's fantastic that they offered. I think that it'll probably depend on what we decide to do. If we're gonna do something kind of larger scale and set the ditches back, then that might not come into play.
Yeah,
But if we look at that a little bit further and decide not to, then by all means, that might be a secondary solution, at least to that particular property owner's predicament,
Sure.
without addressing the others. What would be the next steps, do you think then, to move that forward?
So, I guess the one hangup I have is, it's not the only ditch in the
Yeah.
township that is close to the road, so, this is one that we decided to, or haven't decided to yet, but have been
That we're looking
discussing.
at, right.
Yeah. So I guess it's, where do you draw the line, where do you start, where do you stop?
Well, I
Because we
think-
could go all the way up the road.
Well, and I think ultimately, if it's something that is, if it's ultimately a safety issue or a, protecting, you know, the roadways, then, and proper maintenance, then I think they're
Sure.
things that we should explore. Now,
Yeah.
to your point, right, like if we identify 20 different sections where it needs to be done, obviously we have to prioritize those. We don't have the time or the financial resources to probably do every single one of those, you know, tomorrow.
Right.
But it's something that we should probably build a plan for.
Matt is working on that, that's
Okay.
what he's doing, so we have an overall what roads need to be done in that regard.
Okay.
We're working on which is the priority, that's why I'm working with the county and with Matt on this, because I wanted the engineers, input onto it, as well as Matt's expertise to see which ones are the roads that are the priority right now, and what projects we're gonna be coming down the road with this, so this is it's an extensive project they're gonna have, but they know this is a long-term plan for the township that we need to be addressing anyway.
The only thing I would add to that is, I know we discussed at the last meeting, reaching out to the prosecutor's office to get some guidance on what would fall in and what wouldn't. Obviously, since we never really decided kind of what the course of action was gonna be, after we left the special meeting last Monday, I was kind of unsure of exactly how to frame that conversation to the prosecutor's office. But just so that everybody's on the same page, anytime that we do have something that goes to the prosecutor's office for a legal opinion, you will both be copied anytime I send anything to them. I usually send it directly to Forrest, just for visibility, and then he'll assign it within his
Team.
his
Okay.
team. It usually
Alright.
goes to Mike and to Assistant Prosecutor Lyons, and then he may even bring in somebody else for that. But
Okay,
but
that way around. right.
anytime, you know, I know we've had some questions over, you know, sending them multiple requests or redundant requests. I just wanna make sure you guys are aware that, like, and hopefully you feel comfortable, if you have a question for the prosecutor's office, obviously ask them what you need to, but I think that, you know, as a board, that probably makes the most sense
That we're
to
not all doing the
keep
same
it,
question
well, and it keeps it
either.
consistent too.
Yeah.
Plus, that way, you know, instead of me relaying to you what I asked and what they said, there's that visibility so that you can see what the question was and then how they responded, so that we're all working with the same information. So I just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure,
no, that's okay,
since-
get it.
it kind of changed a little bit since the last conversation. All right, did we need to discuss Karsten at all, or? I know that one's.
Yeah.
Before we go to Carson,
Yeah.
what's the next steps on, the lanes?
Well, I think we need to decide what the extent of a ditch setback project would be if we want to. And then, if we decide we wanna do that, we should probably figure out, you know, the scale and the expense. Is that something that we're gonna look at doing in-house? Do we wanna, you know, bid that out? Because through the research that I've done so far on the possibility of doing that, if it is for a safety and maintenance of our roadway, we do have more flexibility and potentially being, you had brought up at the meeting, you know, we might have to cut, you know, a concrete driveway. Well, depending on how you read things, that falls within the scope of the project. We can probably cover doing that work as part of the project if we have to cut the drive pipe out to reset it. But that's obviously work that starts to get a little bit beyond the scope of what our department handles. So, you know, if we decide to go that route, that would be the question then that we potentially put to the prosecutor's office. Here's the scope of the project we're looking at. Is there anything that steps over our authority or our ability to do? And kind of go from there. So I guess we should probably figure that piece of it out between now and the meeting the first meeting in August. And then we can get that
So-
clarification.
We need to identify the full scope. What section are we doing? How many
Yep.
driveways?
Yep.
And then.
And then we can put that to the prosecutor's office to verify.
What needs, what driveways or what aprons, approaches, would need some type of, are they stone, are they asphalt, are they concrete?
Who do we, yeah, cause if we have to cut through a driveway to reinstall a drive pipe, we obviously have to put it back.
Right. Okay.
And that particularly, that property on Lance Road is one
Right.
we need to address then if that's the case.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
All right, you can go to Kirsten now.
Yeah. Do we have anything more on that one? I don't know where we
Other
stand.
than the fact, other than what I spoke with I did talk to Dan
Okay.
at the county about it. The resident did not pull a permit, did not meet the needs if they had of.
He didn't have a permit for the driveway
Or the
or
pipe.
the drive.
Or the
Like,
pipe, yeah. It is on the resident then to go and get.
Did you move to Kirsten? Are we?
Yes.
Yeah, we're on Carson, yeah, sorry. Yeah, so, because he didn't meet the requirements of the county level, it is on us to enforce it.
Okay.
We do require that the county have asked us that he does pull a permit to get the inspection, although it's already been said that he hasn't met it. I suppose they have to tick their boxes and go out and inspect it officially. His driveway is too high, it's about 6.5 inches above the grade of the thing, so that doesn't meet the requirements either. And there's no room for us to come in and address. It's the same issue, I think, with the ditch and the other one on Lance Road, is the pipe is not correct. So there's one section of that has the correct material for the pipe, the other section does not. Dan was looking at it.
But the difference between the two is.
It's not compliant
Well,
anyway.
the first one that we were discussing.
Yeah,
The county
yeah,
ultimately signed off on.
and got it wrong.
Right, but they had signed off on it. The one over on Karsten.
No one's ever looked at it, seen
Okay.
it, so it is on the resident to come in to the county to pull that permit and to pay for their own things.
Okay.
Now, we can, and this is what I wanted to check with, is the legalities, because it was improperly installed, can the town get touch it at that point and dig? We can under the rights of way, but I'm just double checking on a few details, so once I get all of that details, I can tell you, once we've got that final on
Okay.
it.
Where do we stand on, there was some talk about needing to do some patchwork on the
Yeah,
actual road.
So obviously we've had rain again. I did talk with Matt about going to Chatham and borrowing, doing our work with them to use the machinery that's needed to do that patchwork, because it has to be the hot one.
Okay.
So I think that's what they were waiting on us to give them the go ahead with it though. But yeah,
What do they need?
I think
approval on?
because of the question being, was it, Dan did say it was an emergency, so it does fall on. I think what Matt wanted to know is does the board approve this, that they come in and do this? And I said, yes, I
Does
think
it
we do. Do we approve the emergency work that needs to be done? And so, do you remember the picture where that where the crack is on Carson Road.
Well, right, but I guess before we get to it, like, what work are we doing at what cost? Like, is it,
That's our cost, that's us. So it will be us to fill in, I think it's, Dan recommended that we do 20 inches off, for them to clear 20 inches off it is, I think. And then it's the slagstone 9 that would be put down, I think it's slagstone or whatever, the number 9, whichever one it is, but it's number 9, that will be used. And then that will just take from the edge where the edge is obviously broken, that makes that runoff for the tyre so that we're not
okay,
in danger.
so Matt and the guys are gonna work with
Yeah.
Chatham to get the equipment that we need,
Yeah.
and they're gonna make that a priority to get it
Yeah.
done? Okay,
Yeah,
any issues?
No, yeah, if it's an emergency, we need to do it.
yeah.
Okay. So anything else under that piece of things?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine.
Then the damage to the road on Carston Road, I know there's loops into
At
the
the
other
end of
one.
the, well, no, that's the difference.
Outside that
up there, so,
property,
Okay,
because of the section and how far it is, I think Matt's trying to work with Malway to find out how much it's gonna cost to repair it, and what do we want to do as a township? Are we paying for it, are we gonna ask the resident who damaged it to pay for it? Matt's waiting to know what we want to do on that.
well, have we gotten anything from, has Melway come out?
That's what he's waiting for, yeah, to get the final pricing.
Well, I was gonna say,
and
have-
assess it,
I
yes.
think have Melway come out, take
Yeah.
a look at it, figure out, you know, if they can give us a report on, you know, how, you know, what they determine the cause to have been, and then what it's gonna take to repair it, and then we can kinda make a decision from there, cause I think that'll probably
Yeah,
sway my decision one way or another, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, I'd have Matt get Melway out
yeah,
ASAP and get that looked at.
yeah, I think because it was raining today, they didn't come out.
Okay. Alright, we good with all
Yep.
that? Alright, so then the other one that I had was, obviously at the last meeting, we agreed, we hired Jeff Smolko, but just to be, as the new zoning inspector, just to be consistent with what we've been doing, I circulated a resolution 2026-44, appointing Jeff Smolko as Lafayette Township zoning inspector, and outlining the handoff of, you know, when his duties began and when Karen's ended as the interim. Any questions or comments on that?
No, I'm good.
Alright, well, with that, I would make a motion to adopt, resolution 2026-44, appointing Jeff Smolko as Lafayette Township zoning inspector.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Kittle, yes.
Below, yes.
Paroli, yes. Alright. Under new business, Nick, you wanna take the first one?
Yeah, so the town hall the generator, when was that, last Monday or Tuesday? The power went out, the generator kicked on, but it wasn't providing power to the building. Hughes Electric came out and inspected it, and the transfer switch is bad. We have two options, I don't have the details on, we can replace the board inside the transfer switch, or you can replace the whole transfer switch. I think it's about a $700 difference we're talking about.
Yeah, gotta find it.
Let me get the
Yeah,
email.
hold on, I got it, let me see. Yeah, just under $3,000, 2921.
That's for the full transfer, that's to
Right.
replace the full transfer
Yep.
switch.
And then,
I can't find it. When did it go out again?
that was on Thursday of last week.
Except for Mac.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, so the full transfer switch was, $29.21, and just to replace the control board was $15.92. Pricing for a transfer switch is pretty typical for, like, the pricing that they gave us to
Right.
replace a full transfer switch, at $2,900, from my experiences in construction, that's a pretty normal price. So, I asked Matt if he had any records on if that transfer switch was installed with the generator or if it was replaced previously. He didn't have any records, and he said it looked pretty old. He thought just by evaluating, he thought that it was probably original with the generator. So at that point, I would recommend, personally, I would recommend just replacing the transfer switch for, I feel like it's a better option.
I guess, yeah, and my only question on that would be is, do we have any idea, that generator's gotta be what, 20?
It was there when the original, so it's 25, maybe longer than that now, years old.
It's very old.
Yeah.
I don't know when it was installed.
Is it something,
There you
As
go.
far as the switches go, the other big part of them is that spring. And, that's a big deal. If that goes, you're replacing the whole switch anyhow,
Yeah.
so it's probably a good idea to replace it.
well, I'm not necessarily advocating for not replacing it, I'm just wondering if it's worth taking a look at, you know, what's,
Old generators is,
what's the useful life? You know, how much more life are we gonna get out of it when we replace the switch? What would replacing the whole unit run? I would imagine, I don't know
The whole
anything that,
Mhm.
I don't know what, how many kilowatts that is, but,
Does it say?
a 26 kilowatt generator with a transfer switch is gonna cost you about 12 grand or so.
Maybe you can get 2 for 1s, because we do one at the admin building, so I'm not stuck there every time there's no electric area.
but I'm just wondering if that's, I mean, when you're talking about spending $3 grand
Yeah.
to repair a 25-year-old piece of equipment, if you're thinking, and I don't wanna
Yeah,
stick
I
you to a
don't-
number, but if you're talking 12 to even 15 grand to replace the whole unit, you're talking somewhere in the, like, we're already spending 20 to 25% of the cost just
Fifth
to,
of the cost, yeah.
you know, so is it maybe something that's worth doing our
Yeah.
homework for the next 2 weeks
Yeah, I think so.
and making a decision at the next
Will
meeting?
this affect rentals for the weekend?
What's that?
We have a rental this weekend, will that,
As long as the power doesn't go out.
okay.
I don't know if that's true.
Well, I mean, as long as the
Yeah.
power, as long as the power is functioning, then the backup generator working doesn't make a difference, you
Right.
know?
Okay.
It's just a matter of the next time the power goes out, then you don't have the backup generator working. But realistically, if we pull the trigger tonight, I mean, they
Yeah,
probably
no,
won't get it
I
fixed
think
this week anyway, so.
No, probably not. I would probably ask Matt to get a full quote to replace the whole generator.
Okay.
Or to at least assess. So Matt, I was at the service department when Matt called, I was meeting him to look at one of these roadways. And, I showed up and he said the power's out, the generator's not working.
Yeah.
He was on the line with, Hughes Electric, and I helped him kind of troubleshoot a little bit. And, the guy on the other line, I don't remember his name, but he did mention a couple times, that generator's so old, I don't even know what, how it's wired or where. He kept saying there should be a switch somewhere on the generator, and we looked all over that generator and couldn't find the switch, or a circuit breaker or something, and we could not find it anywhere. So I finally told him, I said, I don't think we're gonna resolve this over the phone, and that's when he said, well, I'll be there in 45 minutes, so. I think we should do an assessment
Yep.
on what the useful life of that generator is, get a quote to what it would cost to replace that with, and a transfer switch,
Right.
and then we can make a better informed decision. Like,
Was that put in there when the fire department was in?
Yeah.
Do you need one that big, where you're running an air conditioner and stuff like that?
I don't know what,
Well, right, and that's what I'm saying, like, it's probably worth, because of where we're at now, it's probably worth taking a look at it and making sure that we have the right setup for the complex, the way that it operates today. You know, replacing the transfer switch may be the right solution,
Sure.
right? Not ruling that out at all, but like I said, we're already talking about enough money that it probably warrants having a conversation of whether, you know, cause the next repair, you know, might be right down the road. And as the machine, as it gets older, you know, parts get harder to find, you know.
Yep.
They get more expensive to replace, so.
Right.
Let's work on that, and try to.
I think the other thing we need to identify is how important it is to have a generator for the building. Like, I don't know, like, previously it was there for the fire department.
Right.
And like, do we need a generator for the service department? I don't know. And if we do, if we're doing all this work, maybe we should run a line to the admin building, so
Right.
that the admin building can run on backup power.
I think it is set up such that
Is it?
it hasn't in the past. Okay.
It doesn't now,
Well, either
now
way.
it's not, yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that
Again,
week
yes.
that worked down there for a
You know,
week when the last
That was
one
put in when the facility operated in one manner, and now the
Yeah.
facility operates differently, so it's worth doing
Yeah,
it. So, yeah, let's do that and hopefully be in a position to make a decision one way or another at the meeting on the 4th. Alright, next up, Carrie, you had sent an email probably about a month ago,
But,
over on Deerview when they were doing some work on the hydrants over there, and we had just had that section resurfaced. Obviously, it was a very detailed email, I was just wondering, I hadn't seen anything
It's,
since then, so
yes.
where are we with?
so we had to wait, I know that we were waiting to make sure that all the hydrants were in. I know there was a conversation as to were they installed incorrectly or not, so I know that was an issue that slowed things down. Malway are pricing out to give us an
Okay.
idea of how much it will cost. The gentleman who owns the company,
The contractor? Okay.
yeah, he's been in talks with Matt about this as well, so there is conversation still going. I think they're just getting the final details of the pricing in place, and then Matt will let us know what it is.
Okay, but as of yet, Melway hasn't been out to look at that one either, or you're not
They
sure?
wanted to wait because they hadn't finished installing them, and they said, well, if there's further damage down the road,
The hydrants?
yes,
Gotcha,
so they didn't wanna come out prematurely until they
Until the
completed all of
contractor was
them, yeah.
completely done? Okay,
So Matt said once they're finished, he will do another assessment with Malway to make sure that any sections that might additionally need doing get covered as well.
okay. Alright. Good?
I'm good.
Okay. The last one, Wednesday after our last regular meeting, you guys should have been copied. The prosecutor's office reached out over a public records court of claims case. You guys get a chance to review that and know what the
Yeah,
question point is?
yeah.
Okay. Thoughts, questions, comments on how the board wants to proceed on that one?
Yeah, so, let me just make sure I understand, so
Mhm.
the, public records request was submitted. Did anybody follow up on that, to say, hey, we're working on? like-
So we received we received the request, we did respond, that it was being worked on.
In what timeframe?
I don't know when the initial response went. It did take us a while to fill the request, with everything that was asked for. The requester had submitted, go ahead, yep.
So between the time the request was presented and we responded, you said it took a while. Did we continue to follow up and say, hey, we're still working on it, or did we just?
There was limited communication,
Okay,
if any, between when it was done. The requester had served us with a 3-day notice, as is required.
Yep.
We communicated that we were working on filling it.
Okay.
We filled the request
in those 3 days?
in those 3 days. The requester did not feel that it was sufficiently fulfilled, so they filed in the Court of Claims. So we've been through mediation.
Mhm.
I believe that we have, the last email that we had from the prosecutor's office was that everything had been fulfilled to that point, and then the question was over whether or not the township wanted to reimburse the,
Application fee.
at the filing fee.
Fine, yeah.
And it's $25 a filing fee, is it?
Correct.
I just say reimburse it, like, I don't think $25 is worth fighting over. If we weren't in clear communication throughout the process, that's something that we definitely need to do. We need to respond to a public records request quickly, whether we fulfill the records requester that, we need to respond quickly and tell them we're working on it. If we can fulfill it quickly, that's great, but if it's gonna take some time, then we need to have a process in place where we're following up. I don't know what that timeframe is, but I feel like it's gotta be at least once a week that we're following up. I don't,
No, that's good, because we've discussed, but not actually finalized anything yet,
right.
that we want to clean up our policy
I think we need to, yeah.
and set the right, yeah, absolutely.
And if we didn't provide any information, and we went silent for a while we were collecting all the information. From the other perspective, it's like, oh, they're ignoring me. So, I don't know, if I have to, the problem that I'm concerned with is if everything was submitted and provided within that 3-day notice, then why did we go to mediation? Like the Court of Claims should have, wouldn't they have stopped?
That's not the way the process works.
Okay.
So the way that it typically works is, the requirement is that any requester has to, if they feel there's a deficiency, has to give the respondent, the public entity, 3 days notice of intent to file an opportunity to cure, okay? So once that 3-day window expires, then the requester doesn't have to be the 4th day, but any time after that,
the 3rd,
yes,
right.
can take action. And then, in my experience and everyone that we've dealt with on either side of this, it goes to mediation before any determination at all is made. We have one that's currently in mediation, a separate situation where the requester didn't even give the 3-day notice. So at the end of the process, we will prevail. There's no question, right? They didn't, but in the spirit of the way public records work, right? Like, the Court of Claims wants to work on curing these, because even if a notice wasn't given, right, there's another request that come in, and like we've talked about, the intent is not to withhold records. It's, so the only piece I think that I have, the only, I guess, maybe hesitation that I have on it is, while I agree with your points that we can absolutely do a better job of communicating in the process, I do feel that the Court of Claims or a mandamus action, those are for situations where, a public entity is either, hey, we have nothing, or we're not giving it to you, and they've kind of drawn a final line, or, to your point, they're not responding at all. So I do feel that, while we could have been quicker in responding, we produced what we thought was a full request within that 3-day window, instead of telling us that there was a question of things missing. They just went to the Court of Claims. It wasn't necessary, in my opinion. I do think that, with the way that the way mediation went, I do think if the court were to rule, ultimately, we won't owe the $25, but at the same time, I don't disagree with, it is still the prosecutor's office that's gonna spend the time working through this,
Right.
and so as a,
Kristen, did you have something to add? I thought you raised your hand.
After you were done
Okay.
with that,
Okay.
just to like how we can,
how we can improve the
Improve the
process,
process.
not
Yeah.
the specific.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. Carrie, anything?
I understand both sides of things. I think given that if we had I don't know how many times, Kristen, because you do our public records, don't you? So how many times did you communicate to say that you were in the process of filling this?
if they get an initial that we've received it and we're gonna start working on it. And then I don't email them back until I have all the information from whoever's providing if I can go ahead, like if they ask for minutes or something very simple that I can easily get to. Most of it's stuff that either you guys or Sherry has to provide the information.
Cause a lot of times it's emails
Yeah,
or it's,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
So then I'm just waiting on so I don't send anything until I've compiled everything to complete the request, and then I say, here's your request, here's your PRR.
So what
Or if I've had people send an email and say, hey, could you please give me an update? And I'm like, sure, they're still working on this, and this.
Did we get a request in to ask from that requester then to see where we were with the process?
I'd have to go through emails, I don't know off the top of my head.
the requester asked me.
Okay,
And so, like I said, I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say that we couldn't have been quicker in responding to the request. I think we definitely could have been. We can absolutely clean up our processes and define those better. But I do think that we would have been able to resolve getting the requester their entire records request without involving the Court of Claims or the prosecutor's office. That's my only hang up. But like I said, it needs to be a decision of the board, you know, so that we can let Haley know how to proceed.
Right. How would you like to proceed?
I think we let the Court of Claims make a decision. I don't think we volunteer, you know, to refund that. But I also see your side of it, so, I mean, the other side of things.
but what did the court, did they say they would rule on it then?
Well, ultimately, they'll have to, if it doesn't get dismissed via an agreed settlement, then yes, the Court of Claims will issue a determination on court costs and the filing fee.
So I think the lesson learned here is we really need to be diligent about public records requests. Like,
And
we spent 10
in
minutes here
most,
talking about.
I do think in most cases we do, but there are some, especially when they come in that are bigger or ask for, as Kristen said, right, there are certain requests
Yeah.
that are very easy to pull documents for,
Sure.
and then there's
Right.
ones that sometimes involve multiple people, you
Was
know.
this quite an in-depth one then?
I mean, it was a little more than average. I mean, it wasn't crazy.
Okay.
I mean, I have an idea of how to clarify all that, but you make your decision on
Yeah.
that first.
Well, we need a motion one way or the other.
What is your opinion on it then?
Well, like I said, I mean, I think we would have resolved the records request without involving the Court of Claims. So, you know, on the one hand, I don't wanna set a precedent of, you know, just go file, but at the same time, we can cut the problem off by cleaning the processes up too, so, you know, I wouldn't be inclined to agree to it, but I'm not gonna sit here and fight you guys if you have a different opinion on it. That's,
Yeah, I think the underlying thing is, like I said, we just gotta improve that process, because we spent 10 or 15 minutes
Mhm.
talking about this. We've spent several,
we've had
a lot
multiple
of time
emails and conversations
Yeah.
with the prosecutor's office. The
Sure.
prosecutor's office has wasted,
trying to clean this
spent
up,
time
so,
on it as well. And we could have avoided the whole situation, so.
Yes, so, I'll make a motion to refund the fees.
Okay. I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm going to abstain, but. Alright, so we will get that to Haley and get that settled.
is, to do like a dry erase board on any open PRRs that we have that are not fulfilled.
Okay,
Because I do have them listed in our list on Google Drive, but then they're by date. So then they kind of get shuffled
Lost in
in with the ones that are like already fulfilled. So kind of like zoning has that dry erase board, maybe we could do one in Sherry's office or wherever we wanna put it.
right.
To, have open PRRs where I, just list the date received, date acknowledged, who's working on it, what items are already fulfilled, like I could put like need emails from Nick or whatever we
Right.
still need from it. And then we can decide, I don't know if we need a weekly update unless they ask for it, maybe bi-weekly, cause I mean, if
Well,
it's a very in-depth one where it's a lot of information, like we're waiting on KGC or we're waiting on
Yeah,
other people,
So
So-
I think when we respond, we'll know what the request is. I think when we respond, acknowledging that we received it,
mhm.
and we should give them a time frame of when we're gonna follow up next. Either we're gonna have your information in 2 weeks, or
That's
by-
kind of hard. It's kind of hard because we can't say who, like, say KGC.
No, but we
Well,
I mean, you
think-
can't. I mean, it's up to you
Yeah,
guys.
I'm not saying that we'll have a resolution in a certain period of time, but we'll either follow up with you in 2 weeks, or we'll satisfy this in 2 weeks.
Okay.
2 weeks is
And I
a
don't know what
long
that time frame
time.
is, it depends on what the request
Because
is.
the revised code says timely manner, doesn't it?
yeah,
So-
but they've never defined it.
Define
It's
the timing
30
manner.
days is usually it. Why don't we do this? I think we've had a good conversation on it. I think Kristen's got some great ideas. Between, now and early next week, Kristen and I will get together and try to maybe kind of streamline like what a policy is, something that we can present to the board for you guys to review in advance of the next meeting. And then that way we can also have a written expectation so that like when somebody requests stuff from us, they understand kind of, it goes back to the communication piece, right? Like if we communicate what we're doing and what the residents or whoever's making a public records request can expect from us, that will help alleviate some of it as well. Having been on the other side of it, I do understand what it's like when you feel like the public entity that you're making a request from isn't taking your request seriously or doesn't intend on filling it. So we don't want to be doing those things. I don't think anybody up here does. I don't think, Kristen and Sherry have no interest in dragging these out either. So we'll get something together this week that we can maybe put in writing to help kind of not let these things slip going forward.
Yep, okay.
Anything else that we need to cover before we go into announcements? Alright, then the only other stuff that we have under administrative announcements and informational items, obviously movie night got rescheduled, it'll be this Friday night. All vendors are
They're in.
pretty much the same
Same.
schedule.
Yep.
Start at 8, movie will start at dusk.
Yeah, which probably will be like 9:30-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we discussed the Boo Bash will be on October 31st. We're working on those, and Kristen has been working diligently on getting sponsors for the fall newsletter, which will be here sooner rather
Yes.
than later.
And right now we have none.
Okay.
So
No, we did have someone reach out to us.
for a sponsorship for the newsletter?
Yeah,
I didn't
somebody-
get-
Yeah,
Somebody
someone
emailed us
did, yeah.
this week.
Oh,
They're
I
opening a
didn't see
new
it.
home on Spencer Lake Road.
I didn't see
Oh, the
it.
society.
Laney,
Yeah, the
Laney's
society.
Oh,
schooner,
they're
I think,
nonprofit.
she reached out.
They're nonprofit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
And usually we don't,
We don't charge
usually we don't charge nonprofits,
Okay.
but they don't get to be like, hey, I want a 4th page, like they don't get to like pick an
Okay.
ad, like I can fit what I
She
can
was
fit.
asking a quarter or something.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
they want to make sure they have a 1/4 page, then they would have to pay, but if they just want some of their information in, I'll fit it where I can fit it.
Yeah.
It might be a 4th page if we have the space, like I can't guarantee space, but they're nonprofit.
Okay.
I did send out to all my regulars, email about a month or so ago at least, and I have sent some snail mail as well to some new and reoccurring, so we'll see. I don't know what it is this time.
We'll go make some visits.
Yeah, well, I thought about that too. So, but yeah, no, I have, and then just for internal, everybody keep working on your articles.
Alright, and with that, I'll open the floor to, public comment.
You want to still go through the
Yes,
podium,
please.
because sometimes nobody does. You know, that's still a thing. So, just to be honest, with the public record request, it was me that you just discussed. I originally did the public record request on March 20th. 2 weeks later, I emailed and asked if how it was going. I haven't worked on it yet. So then, 2 months into it, I came to a public meeting and talked to the board about it. It's been 2 months and I've had nothing, no correspondence whatsoever. And then Justin was nice enough to tell me how to do the Court of Claims in the open meeting. So that's what I did. He did send me stuff after, 3 days after, and there was like 6 things that weren't included in it. So he said he was fulfilling a public record request, which is fine, I have no problem with that. But as of July 21st, I just now got my stuff, 4 months, 4 months. Should not take anyone in this township 4 months to get a public record request.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, just to be clear, I just need to tell you that. And then, I have not been here for a while, so, as far as the association goes, Tim finally got that 9/11 picture reframed, and we paid for that. You weren't here the other, yeah, we finally got that.
I knew you
From
went
that
out for
motion,
it.
Yeah, and then, we did pay for all the 4th of July candy for the parade, for the chicken parade. And I believe you're getting quotes on the boat.
Got the last one today and I have it with me to talk to you.
Okay, well, we'll have to do that in our meeting, so.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah, okay, that's great. My other thing that I wanted to ask you guys is, as a board, Nick, you weren't here when the decision was made that we can't hold our meetings here. So I'm asking the board to reconsider letting us have the meetings here. I'm just kind of curious, has there been anybody else that has asked to have a meeting here that donates $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a year to the fire department? I mean, I'm just asking you to reconsider, because there's only 2 of you to vote last time, there's 3 now, and I would like to see if you guys would reconsider letting us have our meetings back here. It would be so much easier and more convenient with these guys here and not having to pack up and go someplace else, so I'm asking you to reconsider that. And then the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about was, Justin, at some point you said we're saving a lot of money on insurance, right?
We are saving a decent amount on insurance.
Okay, so how are we saving that money? Just out of curiosity, is it because the rates are lower, or is it because only half the people are taking the insurance?
Well, both.
Okay, because I got, in part of my record request, I got, and I might not be looking at the right thing, but it's the public, Ohio Public Consortium. And I have the fees here for 2026, and it's $452 for 3 people.
We don't
And-
use them anymore. We don't use them anymore.
Oh, we don't use these anymore? So,
Not Ohio Public Consortium.
okay, so how did I get this as in a public?
Well, because that
That
was earlier, but now we use somebody else since May.
You asked for twenty
Okay,
twenty-six,
because
so.
this says, this is the same amount every month in 2026, so I'm assuming.
Well, when you requested that, we still had that, but now we do not.
Okay, okay.
That's why.
So we need a new one of these.
If you requested, yeah.
Okay, all right,
She did,
Hmm.
today.
Oh, yeah.
okay. And then I just have one question for you, Carrie. When you went to the OTA, did you guys have to pay for your own hotels?
Yes.
Okay, so that was included in your reimbursement?
No, actually only part was and part wasn't, so I paid for day 1, day 2, I can't remember now, I'd have to double check, I think I paid my own way.
Okay,
For, I think 2 days, 1 or 2 days.
because it was 2 days, it's 2 days.
I went earlier, so I was there the day before, so I paid for my own day, because I went earlier,
Yeah,
so I paid for those,
Okay.
and then Tuesday, I think, was it Tuesday? Justin,
I
I can't remember now.
believe it was, cause
So
the
I
conference
went out-
itself is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, so I went up on the Tuesday,
Mhm.
so I paid for the Tuesday night myself, and then I got the Wednesday night, and then I came home again.
Okay, so your hotels weren't included in that?
Not in total, no, not in total, no.
Okay, okay. All right, because it was $742 for 3 days, or 2 days, really. So I just wanted to know, like, if you, was that your hotels, or that was just your expenses?
No, I can tell you now, my dinner was $12 on one of the days, I think, and the second day was less than 20, I think, from
Oh,
memory.
I'm not asking
Yeah.
about your food,
No,
I mean,
but
that's
I'm-
fine. I just didn't know how you got to $742. I thought maybe your hotel was included in that, but if your hotel's not included
No,
in that.
it was included in that, yeah, but I funded, so initially I funded the Tuesday night, and then Sherry, when we did it, do you remember?
Well, we
I'd
can
have
pull
to
the,
look
we
at
can
the
pull
details.
the.
details,
I don't
yeah,
know what
I have it, I
that's
can't remember all the details.
That's fine, I just wanted to know if your hotels were included in that, because
Yeah,
that
it
would make
was,
sense.
yeah, it was included in it,
That would
yeah.
make sense if you spent $742.
Yeah.
That's all
Okay,
I just didn't know, because usually it goes on, like, before I knew it went on like one credit card, and you weren't paying for that, the township did it.
yeah, I had to pay it on my own, and then I got reimbursed,
Yeah,
that's how it happened, yeah,
That's all, yep, thank you.
that's okay.
Anyone else?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Brian Morse, 7047 Lafayette Road. I am on the zoning commission, and we are trying to streamline our agenda, the things that we're addressing. One of the things you all should have received, and if you didn't, please let me know, an email from Tim Kassouf about short-term rentals. One of the things we're considering, it's also being considered at the state level. There's a whole lot going on there, there's a lot of work to do. We want to know that that is something that is important to you and that you would support. If it is not, we just ask for a timely response so that we don't waste our time working on it and find out, well, you're not gonna, not of concern to you, so.
And we did receive, an email from
Okay,
Mr.
everybody got it?
Kassouf today, yeah, well, yeah, I forwarded it to,
Oh.
well, there are just some typos, but
Yeah.
yeah, either way, everybody got it today.
Mhm.
We can probably either,
Yes.
we meet again before, I believe before you guys meet. Or each of us could individually respond to Tim, to give him kind of our individual thoughts as well. But if you're looking for a decision from the board, like as a whole, we can definitely address that at the next meeting, but,
Yeah, let's put that on the agenda for next meeting.
right, I'm just not ready. Yeah, like I
Oh,
said, just getting it
not-
today.
Not tonight,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wanted to make sure everyone got
Yes,
Yeah.
we did.
that, so that
Yep.
the next time we discuss this, you say, well, I never saw the
Yeah,
memo.
no.
So, if you got the memo,
Yep.
it's on your agenda.
We'll have it on the
that's
agenda
fine.
for the
And
next
then,
meeting.
Respectfully, a timely response, so that at our next meeting, we can
Yeah.
either check that off or
Or get to work,
move
yeah,
on.
understood,
Thanks,
Thank
Brian.
you.
thank you, Brian. Anyone? Well, with that, I will move to trustee comments, if anybody has anything that they'd like to add.
Nothing else?
Carrie?
No.
Fine, I'm good.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I will second, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned at
8:36.
8:36. Put them in the bank for the next one.
Well, now that we just, calling y'all 3:30 of them, make it up, and I, you know.
Well, I look forward to that voicemail.